In the world of real estate, potential is everywhere, right? But how do you actually turn a patch of dirt into a thriving development? Well, today, we're going to break down the expert advice that makes it all happen, step by step. Yeah, it's a great question, isn't it? When you see an empty lot or maybe a rundown building, you're looking at pure potential. But that transformation from what it is to what it could be, that's not magic. Nope. It's a series of really smart strategic decisions. And that's exactly the story we're going to explore today. We'll follow the entire life cycle of a property, uncovering the key questions and the expert advice that drives success at every single stage. All right, so our story begins right where every project does, with the land itself. This first act is all about the big vision, dreaming big, but also grounding those dreams in some cold, hard reality. This is it, the fundamental question for any landowner. You have this raw asset, and the very first step is to figure out its ultimate destiny. This is where an advisor focused on its highest and best use, or HBU advisory, comes in. Their entire job is to find the single most valuable path forward. And figuring this out isn't a gut feeling. It's a super rigorous four-step process. Advisors analyze every possibility against these tests. First, is it legally permissible? Can you even do it? Is it physically possible on that piece of land? Then, is it financially feasible? And out of all the options that tick those boxes, which one is going to be maximally productive, the one that generates the most value? This process, this is what prevents billion-dollar mistakes. Okay, so let's say the HBU analysis points to a new apartment complex. It sounds like a brilliant idea on paper. But now comes the big reality check. Is the project actually viable? Will people want to live there? And will it make money? This is where you bring in the market and feasibility advisors. Think of them as your market detectives. They dig into the local supply and demand, they analyze the competition, and they project something called absorption rates, which is really just how quickly you can fill the building. The bottom line is this. They determine if your great idea is also a profitable idea long before a single shovel ever hits the ground. So, you have a viable idea. Now we enter Act 2, capital and construction. It's time to talk about money and the real nuts and bolts of getting this thing built. This is where the plan becomes a physical reality. And this brings us to that classic investor's dilemma, which is really the core of investment advisory. Whether you're looking to buy a new property or deciding what to do with one you already own, you face this critical capital decision. Should you buy, sell, or just hold? And the key here is that this decision can't be based on emotion. It has to be driven by hard numbers. Investment advisors use these really powerful financial models to analyze risk, project returns, and recommend the most profitable course of action for your capital. So once that financial decision is made, the whole focus shifts to execution. The question is no longer if you should do it, but how. How do you take this plan and turn it into a high-quality building on time and on budget? This is the domain of development advisory. Think of them as the project's quarterback. They manage the entire process, from the initial concepts and getting permits, all the way to cost controls and construction oversight. They create a clear roadmap to navigate the immense complexity of actually building something. With the building complete, we enter our final act, the long game. Here, we're moving beyond a single project to the art of managing a whole collection of assets to build lasting wealth. So the building is up and running. That's fantastic. But what happens when you own more than one? A new and frankly far more complex question emerges. How do you optimize all these different properties so they work together as one efficient, high-performing portfolio? This is where portfolio advisory comes in. If a development advisor is the quarterback for one project, a portfolio advisor is the head coach for your entire team of properties. They help you build a diversified portfolio, they know when to sell an underperformer, and they make sure the entire collection is aligned with your long-term financial goals. Okay, so we've covered the entire life cycle, from a piece of land to a whole portfolio. Now, let's pull it all together into a simple roadmap, so you know exactly who to call and when. Think of this as your cheat sheet. It's all about matching the right expert to your specific problem. So you inherited a piece of raw land and have no clue what to do with it? You start with HBU advisory. You're looking to buy a rental property? You need an investment advisor to run the numbers. It's that simple. So let's lock this in. It all begins with that fundamental question, what is the best possible use of this land? Before you can even ask if a project will work, you have to know what it should be. That's the critical first step, and it belongs to the HBU advisor. Now, once you know what you want to build, the next question is, Does the world actually want it? This is where market and feasibility advisory gives you that crucial reality check, analyzing the actual market demand to make sure your vision has a place in the real world. With a viable idea in hand, you now face the critical money decision. Does this project make financial sense? Should you buy in, sell what you have, or hold your position? Investment advisory is all about using data to answer that question and deploy your capital intelligently. The idea is solid and the money is in place. But let's be honest, a great plan is useless without flawless project execution. Getting a building out of the ground is a massively complex task, and that is the specific domain of the development advisor. And finally, once you're managing more than one property, the game completely changes. It's no longer about a single project, it's about the whole team. The goal becomes optimizing multiple assets to make the entire collection more valuable than the sum of its parts. That is the strategic work of a portfolio advisor. So you see, every piece of real estate, from an empty lot to a huge portfolio, has a story just waiting to be told. By understanding these key advisory roles, you're no longer just a spectator. You're equipped to be the author. The only question left is, what's your next chapter going to be?